Aloha mai kākou from Kahilu Theater in Waimea on the island of Hawaiʻi. You're listening to the Hawaiʻi Radio Hour. I'm Mileka Lincoln, and I'm joined today by my co-host, Naka Nathaniel.
Aloha mai kākou. On today's program, we're going to be speaking with John DeFries about the oversight of Mauna Kea and the future of astronomy on the Mauna.
For our ʻike kūpuna segment, we're going to be listening to the lovely singing voice of Aunty Doreen Kama.
And we will hear one of the most special mele about Waimea from Brother Noland.
We finish off with moʻolelo from Chef Ippy Aiona and what happens when your dreams come true, then turn into a nightmare.
This is the part of the dream when you're falling and you either wake up before you hit the ground or you fly. I chose to fly.
News, ʻike kūpuna, mele, moʻolelo, and more.
All on today's episode of Hawaiʻi Radio Hour from Kahilu.
But first, the news.
Aloha from Kahilu Theater. I'm Mileka Lincoln, and I'm here with my co-host, Naka Nathaniel.
We are so glad to have you listening to us today.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Summer is officially over, but that means the rise of makali'i, indicating the start of makahiki season, which is almost here.
Do you use the moon calendar at your house?
My ohana does follow the Hawaiian moon calendar, yeah. We use it for fishing and planting and making sure that we're as aligned as possible traditionally with what can provide the most abundance.
I just picked up our new calendar. We have the same frame that we just switch it out every year. So we use the one that was designed by Aunty Bobby Mills Diaz. Now, she passed away a couple of years ago, but she developed this calendar after having a visit from a fisherman in Keaukaha. She developed the calendar in 1960s and then gave the patent to the Prince Kuhio Civic Club. When they first started selling it, it was for $1.50. Now it's $22. And a quick reminder that the Hawaiʻi Radio Hour is presenting Sharing Moʻolelo next month on Thursday, October 16th. Sharing Moʻolelo is when we showcase stories from our community.
Ticket sales to the show on October 16th help keep Hawaiʻi Radio Hour at Kahilu on the air. You can... The Hawaiʻi Radio Hour has been made possible with incredibly generous kākou of the Richard Smart Fund.
The Richard Smart Fund supports healthcare, education, and charities in the Waimea area of Hawaiʻi Island.
The Richard Smart Fund just hosted a community summit at Kanuoka'aina Charter School in Waimea.
Hawaiʻi Island residents heard about issues and topics that are shaping our future and gave input on priorities and our shared values.
To learn more, please visit hawaiʻicommunityfoundation.org or waimeatown.org. The Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority was created in response to protest over construction of the proposed 30-meter telescope. Former Governor David Ige signed the act, creating the new state agency in 2022. The new authority will take responsibility for managing Mauna Kea lands, taking over from the existing authority, which has been the University of Hawaiʻi. Naka, you sat down with John DeFries, right? The Executive Director of Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority, right here at Kahilu.
Yeah, that's right. We just sat down with him over the gallery at Kahilu, which has a beautiful view of the Mauna, and we wanted to learn more about plans for the agency. Wonderful to have you here, and so glad that you're joining us here at Kahilu in the gallery. And we almost have a view of Mauna Kea.
Well, I can feel it. I may not be able to see it right now.
So I'm just curious in the timeline here. Governor Ige signs this into law in 2022. It goes into effect in 2023 with a starting point of having 5 years then to take over.
So the law calls for us to take over by July 1, 2028. So at that point, a 5-year transition period will have, taken place. We're now in month 27 of that 60-month clock, so not quite halfway, but a whole lot of work to get done. And, it's one thing to operate a state authority like this. It's another thing to build it as you're operating it, okay? Because we're having to build it from scratch.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is, from what I understand, one of the first state agencies to be set up in decades. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't have a complete history on it, but I certainly understand why you don't start one of these every other year. It's a lot to go through, but there's good reason for it too. You know, at the end of the day, we're spending public money, and the checks and balances need to be built in adequately to make sure that those funds are being spent properly and wholly accountable to the public.
You know, how are the conversations around the framework going? You said you have a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah.
But given just the context of
well, let me tell you what I'm extremely proud of is that when people arrive at the meetings, you typically have got about 360 degrees of perspectives that are there, right? And the thing I'm most proud of is our island people being able to talk respectfully with people who have differing opinions, okay? And remain civil about it and constructive, right, in the end. And so I may be sitting at a table during the community meeting and surrounded by people who have very different views, right? But I've been somewhat amazed and grateful that people have been able to advocate what it is they feel, a willingness to teach about what it is they feel, but at the same time being somewhat empathetic to other viewpoints. Like I said, it's a real gift that people are willing to share their mana'o, knowing that it differs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So this is a big change in the way things have been done on the Mauna for decades. There's been this consequential refocusing that's happened.
The focus, for whatever reason, early was essentially the summit in astronomy. In our efforts at the authority, we have to recalibrate that so that the view is on the mountain itself, the health and well-being of the mountain, to the degree that we can, utilizing our imagination, kind of remove the human activity for planning purposes, okay? Establish the standards by which when you reintroduce human activity, there's a certain conduct, right? Even in my skateboarding days, I wouldn't have skateboarded through the Vatican.
Right.
Why? Because I would know
it's a reverence.
that, the reverence of that, right? And that's kind of an extreme case, but the point being that there's quite a bit of human activity even beyond astronomy, right? Nightly, you've got rent-a-cars going up there. You've got public access to protect. You've got cultural practitioners that need access to conduct their protocols and rituals. And then you've got tour buses, minibuses, and all that. So it helps us to, in the planning, to kind of set that all aside, put together a planning blueprint that when we do reintroduce it, the carrying capacity of the mountain is understood. How people access, why they access, do we continue to allow just individual cars to go up? All of those questions will come before the authority, right? And then we're challenged by the legislation to attempt to be financially self-sustainable, right? So there may come a time when there will be a admission fee structure, not unlike you see it on Alma Bay, or where the local access is protected, practitioner access is protected, and the visitor is being asked to render a fee for the purpose of caring for the mountain. Yeah.
Yeah, so things seem to have picked up quite a bit recently. Can you talk about OHA dropping the lawsuit and what that's meant for the process?
Well, besides being grateful that they did drop it, I think OHA, well, there's new leadership there too, right? And I think they see an opportunity to become engaged. In fact, one of the things that surprised me is why OHA was not represented on the authority. And I would imagine that this coming legislative session, that will become an issue, and one that frankly I personally would welcome.
Right, right.
Yeah, they're too important a voice not to be there. Now, I wasn't in the boardroom discussion when they decided to drop the lawsuit, but I don't doubt, knowing a few of the board members, that when they looked at the makeup of the authority and saw that 8 of the 12 were actually beneficiaries of OHA, right, as Native Hawaiians, that helped create some level of confidence that wasn't there. So, but we're looking forward to working closely with them.
Yeah. You talked earlier about the cuts in the NSF funding. So what's the status of TMT?
They're moving toward finalizing the congressional budget by the end of September, right? It'll come out, typically it would come out in October, the federal budget. People close to that activity tell me that it could still roll unresolved longer than that, okay? So we're gonna have to pay attention to it. At the last authority meeting, the project manager for 30-meter telescope provided an update that spoke to this funding issue, but until they know whether or not they've got not full funding, but incremental funding to move toward final design, everything is still in flux.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So the people that think that, oh, the funding wasn't included in NSF, that means that TMT is POW.
Yeah. Nothing is that simple and unilateral. There's so many things going on. And then keep in mind that if you watch the geopolitical interaction, right, what happens between the US and India, US and Japan, right, US and Canada, all of that is going to impact what happens on Mauna Kea.
Right.
Pohakuloa, you've got the military leases, so we're not directly involved in it, but we have to pay attention to it, right? Because at the end of the day, the federal government will have one viewpoint, and people have been fighting for Pohakuloa as long as they have been for the summit of Mauna Kea, if not longer.
So this has added a great bit of uncertainty into this.
It's all connected, right?
Yeah.
Red Hill on Oahu, right? The whole military presence in our state is being more heavily scrutinized now. Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, 2028, getting to that point, what are the big things that you and the authority need to push along?
The major issue will be getting the 55 staff people over and into the employment of the authority, and do it in a way that has no adverse effect on them. And I will tell you that by that time we will have a new management plan. We will have established, the authority will have established a carrying capacity. Act 255 requires that the authority advocate for astronomy. What that means, what that looks like, all of that is to be determined, right? But the act specifically establishes the fact that astronomy is part of state policy. And that state policy is will become more clearly defined by the authority once the planning framework is completed. Yeah, and you can run all of the proposals through it, right? And then determine how many and who and under what terms, right? Yeah. So there's been a greater call from the community for increased rents for those that stay, right? The currency in many cases has been viewing time on the telescope plus $1 a year, right? Yeah. Now you're OHA and you're getting 20% of revenue. The 20 cents isn't going very far, right? Right. Yeah, and viewing time becomes really important in that industry, and frankly in the future of the University of Hawaii too. You know, let me make one point too about it, because although Act 255 came about in reaction to community sentiments about the 30-meter telescope and about the University of Hawaii management, I want to emphasize that the university and the success of the university in the field of astronomy is also really important. And I'm taking the approach of not replacing the university, but partnering with them in a way that the community would also embrace, because the educational opportunities, the career development opportunities, all of that are substantial, and the university is an important part of the community. Right. Yeah.
I'm interested in how Hawaiian governance has been introduced into the strategic framework process.
So in the strategic framework draft, there's a reference to the 4 kanawai, and essentially the kanawai are the laws of nature, okay? Yeah. The 4 kanawai were in the working report that the working group did in leading up to Act 255, okay? So this would have been like the 2021 session of the legislature. Aunty Pua, Dr. Pua, our friend Pua Kanaele, was on that working group, okay? And so the kanawai were put in there, but it didn't survive it into the final language of the law. But when the authority members, all 12 of them, met earlier in the year to come up with this draft, the kanawai were reinserted, okay? What's really important about this is that, and it's all related to focusing on the Mauna, okay, and the absence of human beings. The 4 kanawai she refers to, Aunty Pua, and we use her video in the community meetings, okay, to describe them. But what she's talking about are the life forms that are up there: wind, cloud, moisture, rock, the geological formation, the movement of water over the mountain, through the mountain, right? So these are the natural cycles, okay? I haven't seen a project of this scale that is or was designed with that in mind, okay? The real challenge for us is, how do you bring that together with the regulatory framework that we have today? And why is that important? that we do that, okay? Because one is inherent to the birth of the island. The other one is imported, right? And when you ask what are the major challenges in entering 2028, from my seat and the authority members in total, how we merge this, can we merge it? Down in Ka'u, Na'aleho, we were in a community meeting, and one of the people attending the meetings said, do you have an idea, when this is completed, will you have an idea of what the final plan will look like? And I said, there's only one thing I know for sure about the plan. And he said, are you willing to share the one thing that you know? And I said, sure. The final plan will be hapa'aole. Okay, it'll be hapa'aole because the kanawai is its Hawaiian parent. Mm-hmm. The regulatory framework we live in today is its multi-ethnic parent.
Mm-hmm. Right.
The two are going to have a child called the authority plan. And the only thing I know is that plan going to be hapa'aole, right? Which, by the way, is why Hawaii has the best looking children in the world. Okay? So,
all mixed up.
You know, and what was interesting is the people at the table kind of like, did he really say that? But I think they kind of all knew that that's something to be open to.
Both worlds.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, not easy, but we won't get there unless we.
So it still may have like identity issues later on in life, you know, trying to figure out where.
I would say, because ultimately one is speaking, and this is what I have enjoyed about the teachings of Pua Kanahele, because even when she takes you back to the creation chant, you begin to realize that the first Hawaiians were not people. Mm-hmm. They were elements of nature.
Right.
The wind, clouds, rain, right? Humans came much later in that. So trying to get back into that mindset because what she is emphasizing is you need to recognize and respect the mountain's commitment to itself to be sustainable.
Right.
So that her people can live.
Yeah.
Right? No, I'm encouraged by the fact that the Kanabai have been there, because if you don't make it a priority, it'll never get there. Right? And more people, the youth in particular, need to understand the whole effort is to get back into an island consciousness, right? And away from patterning ourselves around continental behavior. How you behave on a continent, it's one thing, and we have replicated that, right, over time. Mm-hmm. And what we now see is the importance of getting back into that island consciousness. You hear Nainoa Thompson talking about that all the time. And listen, I've got all the confidence in the world in the 3-4 generations behind me. They're going to figure this out.
Yeah.
Mahalo to John DeFries for joining us here at Kahilu. The Hawaiʻi Radio Hour, and more importantly, the Hawaiʻi Storytellers Fellowship, is supported by Kamehameha Schools.
We'll be right back after this short break. You're listening to the Hawaiʻi Radio Hour at Kahilu.
Welcome back to Hawaiʻi Radio Hour here at Kahilu Theater.
Mileka, can you hear that?
The music from outside, right? So nahe.
It really is. We hear it almost every time we record. Mahealani and Gilian were curious as to where it was coming from, so they set out to find out who the mystery singer was. Mahealani, do you have any luck?
Yes, I'll paint the scene. So we went outside, maybe 100 feet from where we record, and found an auntie sitting in a grassy patch under the jacaranda tree right here behind Kahilu. And I heard her singing Echo in the back of Waimea most afternoons for the last year, whenever I'm in town, and it always fills me with so much joy. So we found out her name is Aunty Doreen, and she spends most of her afternoons waiting for her nephew to finish school. And while she waits, she sings and plays the ukulele, while purple jacaranda blossoms float down around her. We wanted to know more about her story, so we invited her here to talk with us.
Aloha, my name is Doreen Kama. I'm originally from Kona, born and raised there, but born in Hilo. I graduated from Kona High in 1967. A lot of my friends told me, you need to sing, go join the choir. But I was actually shy when I was in high school. So I said, no, that's not for me. In a way, I was kind of sad that I didn't do it. But, my dad plays all the instruments. He plays steel box, he plays upright bass, he plays guitar, ukulele. His whole family is music people. He grew up playing music. And actually, my mom wasn't musically inclined, but my dad taught her. But she had a beautiful voice, And so when my mom got her stroke, and my dad needed a singer, he told me, it's your turn to take over, Mom. I looked at him and I says, are you crazy? And he says, no, I need a singer. So my dad got a group, I was the lead singer. My younger sister played the electric bass, and then my brother plays the guitar. My younger sister is the one that has the voice, but she's my backup. I'm the lead and she takes the second. But I'm not really a person who likes to be upfront. And my dad was our backbone in our family. And but when my dad passed away, it broke my heart. We were a family group, but when my dad passed away, we put everything away. And just when my grandnephew went back started to go to school, and I just picked up the ukulele, sit over there and just play, And I says, oh well, if anybody wants to complain, they can. And I just sit them and I play, and if people come and says, oh, I says, thank you. I just keep playing. It's something that I enjoy. I don't do it too much at home. I just, sometimes I pick it up, but most of the time, I really recently did it from last year. But since my dad passed away, I never picked up the ukulele until this past year. I just enjoy singing. If people enjoy it, I'm happy for it.
Oh, I'm so glad you talked to her and got her to share her story. Mahalo to Aunty Doreen for sharing her ʻike and her mele with us. I'd really love to listen to more.
Well, it's a good thing we talked for so long because there's actually another story and song of hers that I'd love to share.
Well, we're a little bit tight for time in this show, but hey, how about maybe next week?
Okay, can do. That'd be great. I can't wait to share more of Aunty Doreen's songs and stories next week.
We'll be right back. The Hawaiʻi Radio Hour is supported by the Abigail Kawananakoa Foundation.
The Abigail Kawananakoa Foundation is dedicated to preserving traditional Hawaiian culture while empowering Hawaiian people.
The foundation is the residual beneficiary of the Princess's Trust and is her lasting legacy and ultimate gift to her people.
To learn more about the Abigail Kawananakoa Foundation, please visit kawananakoafoundation.org.
Welcome back to Kahilu Theater in Waimea and the Hawaiʻi Radio Hour. We're so grateful you're taking the time to listen to us.
And if you're on the road right now, we appreciate you listening, especially if you're out on Mauna Road.
Oh, lucky you have reception. Brother Noland is a legend beyond legendary, and he was on stage here at Kahilu singing one of his most lovely songs. Here's Brother Noland singing his classic, Pueo, Tara, and Me.
You know, when you grow up and you live in Waimea, and you grow up and you live amongst musicians, kiho alu is mandatory. You know this sound. For the people of Waimea, we belong in the land of the Pueo. Yes, every day, me and Tara would watch it dance across the land. From the mountain slopes, it glided to the corner coast, then lit up in Waimea. And mother, I saw the Pueo. Every day we watch it spread its wings so free. And as it floated into the sunset, I thought of my city home waiting for me. And all of Waimea sing with me. Pueo, the Pueo. One more time. Pueo, the Pueo. And Father, I saw the Pueo. It reminded me of how it must have been so long ago to have lived in a village forested by sandalwood. Then Tara B woke me up, said, where did it go? Well, it went home. Please sing for Tara, the Pueo and me, forever free. Forever free.
Thank you to Brother Noland for sharing such a beautiful song.
We'll be back with a story about what happens when your dreams come true, then turn into a nightmare. Support for ʻike, kūpuna, and moʻolelo portions of Hawaiʻi Radio Hour comes from Kate Bell and Tom Blackburn of the Deviants from the Norm.
Without deviation from the norm, progress is not possible.
We'll return in just a moment.
Aloha, welcome back to Kahilu Theater and the Hawaiʻi Radio Hour.
Chef Ippy Aiona shared his moʻolelo with us at our most recent in-person show here at Kahilu.
Here's Chef Ippy Aiona.
I made that dream come true. So without further ado, I want to introduce my son, Ippy Aiona.
Awesome, Uncle.
Way to go, Poragi. Surprise!
Could have picked someone else for me to follow up after. It's not easy to follow my dad. Let's put it up a little bit. How's everybody doing tonight? Everybody doing good? Everybody's got their drink? All right, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Dad. That was a lot of information. And most of it was true. So, but of course, I wouldn't have been able to do any of that without my family and everything they gave me. So real quick, I was going to give a little background about myself to start, but I guess they took care of that for me. As my dad said, I grew up in the restaurant business. My dad had a Hawaiian plate lunch restaurant. My mom had an Italian restaurant. They were in the same shopping centers, like dueling restaurants, you know? There's only 2 shopping centers, so it wasn't like a huge thing, but, and I really grew a passion for cooking. It was something that I loved to do from a young age, and something I really wanted to pursue, which I always feel blessed with, because, you know, it's when you know what you want to do from such a young age, you get so much time to work on it. And I used to always tell everybody that, you know, in the olden days, if your dad was a blacksmith, you were a blacksmith, and your kid was a blacksmith. It's like you took what your family did with pride and you kind of turned that into your life, you know? And I tell everyone I'm not a jack of all trades, but I can fricassee a chicken in like 5 minutes, you know? So I can't fix your car for you or change my tire, but I can take care of that chicken, no problem. So when I was told, or when I was asked about doing this event and had to come up with a story, I thought it would be a perfect time to plug my new cookbook that we have. Growing Up Hapa. So this book actually isn't out yet. So this book is going to come out in a few weeks. If you guys want to order, you can go to www.mutualpublishing.com. I forgot to mention too, we currently have 2 restaurants in town. One called Ippy's Hawaiian Barbecue, open Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., 808-885-4147. That's if you guys, and then we just opened a new spot called the Dizzy Pita, where we do gyros, falafels. See, some people have been there. We need more people to come though, so if you guys haven't been there, definitely come check us out. Yeah, so when I decided to do this story, I thought it'd be really cool. So this book, Growing Up Hapa, was written by me, and the photos and everything are by Dustin, who just left us, but Dustin Akdal, an amazing photographer. And the idea of Growing Up Hapa was to create a book that told my story. You know, my dad being Hawaiian, my mom being Italian, being raised in a Hawaiian restaurant, Italian restaurant, French culinary school. It's really hard to pick my point of view when it comes to culinary. So I decided to write this book, and each chapter is about a different restaurant in my life. And each chapter starts with a story of how I opened that restaurant, and then we go into recipes. So the story I decided to read to you guys today is a story of me opening my gastropub. It was called The 3 Fat Pigs. It was a gastropub down in Waikoloa. And, oh, thank you. It was a really great experience, but the story I'm gonna tell you guys tonight is kind of about how sometimes when you're trying to get to your dream, you have to go through a nightmare. And this first night was a nightmare. It was intense, as you guys will hear right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and read this to you. Yeah, The 3 Fat Pigs, Perfect Imperfections. We all know the saying, when it rains, it pours, and this was never more accurate as it was on the opening day of The 3 Fat Pigs. Our goals and dreams always seem nice and tidy floating around in our subconscious minds, But sometimes those dreams can turn into a nightmare. That is what it felt like to me on opening night as the Waikoloa moon shone bright through the dining room windows. This story starts off like every other one, with our main character walking blindly into issue after issue until everything is resolved and the story arc turns back to happily ever after. The night started off as most of my opening nights. I was expecting a few issues, but the excitement and anticipation of success suppressed my nerves. This was the Big Island's first ever gastropub, and I was young and ambitious, so my menu had a mix of classic dishes with modern molecular gastronomy techniques. Think foams, spherifications, emulsions, etc. I would say I was excited, but that would be the wrong word. Nauseous would be more accurate. I was prepared though, this being the second restaurant I opened and the fourth that my family had opened. I was expecting the bumps. Everything started off great. I had an experienced sous chef, an eager kitchen crew, and a fantastic front crew, albeit a little bit green. We already made it through our soft opening, so the major kinks were worked out, but on opening night, you should always expect the unexpected. We were fully booked, our reservations were at capacity. I created the menu to have a quick pickup time. There were close to 100 seats in the restaurant. It was 2 stories with a large mural over the open kitchen of 3 pigs in the art style of Beatrice Potter that I had contracted out to fit our whimsical theme of the restaurant. Upstairs was a bar and lounge named the Thirsty Wolf Lounge and offered bar snack menus and an intricate yet borderline pretentious drink menu. The space was beautiful, open, and modern. The first few orders went out status quo. I felt good, like I was on top of the world. The wheels seemed to be turning, the machine of this restaurant was rolling along as planned. About halfway through dinner service, my sous chef approached me and told me that he was gonna go home. Yeah. I told him that it was only 8 p.m. and we don't close until 10. He said that he was too old to stay late at night. I knew I would have to let him go. Yeah. With no sous chef and myself expediting, we were still on the right path, but the path had got a bit bumpy. While I was calling out orders and directing my food runners to tables with trays full of food, my bartender approached me. He said the floor drain behind the bar was starting to back up and water mixed with dirt and grease was coming up from the floor drains. We stuffed a few towels into the floor drain, hoping this was a quick fix which was gonna hold until the plumber could come the next day. A bad decision in the long run, but hindsight's 20/20. The shopping center we were in was old, and it's fair to say the plumbing needed some serious work. The problem had a Band-Aid on it when what it really needed was stitches. I started to panic, as I knew the smell would soon start to follow this greasy water, and we still had a couple hours of service left to get through. As we cooked our way through the next few orders, the floor drain in the back of the kitchen started to overflow as well. It was at this point I knew, well, we can't say what I knew because we're on Hawaiʻi Radio, but I knew that we were in trouble. We cut off walk-ins and just finished the last of our customers with reservations. That's when one of my green servers walked up to me and said, "Hey chef, the food critic for Honolulu Magazine is here and wants to know what you recommend for dessert." My eyes got wide, I bit my bottom lip trying not to scream at the server, and I asked the server why they didn't come to inform me when the critic first came in, and they said they just got too busy. Yeah, that server didn't get fired though, they would stay with us forever. This is when it all hit me like a freight train. I dropped to a squat so that the customers couldn't see me, and I started to feel the pressure building up. Now, I'm a lifer, someone who's been in the industry their entire life. So I'm used to solving problems under pressure, but these problems were out of my control. I walked outside and saw my wife at the hostess stand, and she helped to calm me down, like wives always do. That's my partner. This is the part of the dream when you're falling and you either wake up before you hit the ground or you fly. I chose to fly. I went back in, picked out our best dessert, took it to the food critic, and with the best charm I could muster, I explained to her the concept and the inspiration for the restaurant. She must have been understanding because I didn't get any questions about the smell that was only now wafting in from the kitchen. She thanked me and left, and we proceeded to close out the last of the customers and clear the dining room. Lessons in life are only learned through failure. If you don't experience problems, you will never know how to solve them. The review came out, and it was not at all what I expected. The food critic praised the creativity and concept. It also helped me grow as a chef. At only 23 years old, I learned that if you don't go with the flow, you will definitely drown. Like all restaurants we open, I laced up my steel-toed non-slip shoes. The next day went in to fix the problems and face the new ones. I'm forever grateful to the 3 Fat Pigs as it truly helped me grow as a chef and restaurateur. I learned that you're not cooking for yourself, but your target demographic. And if you allow your ego to get in the way, you will ultimately fail. It's been 13 years since that opening night, and the vivid lessons have stuck with me to this day. I love that restaurant and the food we put out. Although I definitely had some ups and downs, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm so grateful for my family. Without them, I would never have made it as far as I have. The 3 Fat Pigs might not be here today, but everything that transpired has turned me into the chef I am, and for that, I am always grateful. Thank you. I am Ippy Aiona, and I'm from Waimea.
Mahalo for your moʻolelo, Chef Ippy.
He's got a lot going on. On October 4th, he'll be coming out with the 2nd season of Eating Our Roots, directed by our Hawaiʻi Radio Hour co-host, Colby Akamu Moser. And then he is releasing his cookbook, Growing Up Hapa.
So many great things. Chef Ippy was a storyteller here at Kahilu Theater, and we're excited to share the news that we'll be hearing more stories from our island home, recorded right here on stage in front of a live audience coming up on October 16th.
We will be on stage at 7 p.m. sharing stories from our community. For more details and tickets, please visit kahilu.org. The Hawaiʻi Radio Hour is grateful for the Stupski Foundation's support of the Hawaii Storytellers Fellowship.
The Stupski Foundation is a private foundation returning its assets to the communities it calls home in Hawaii and the San Francisco Bay Area.
The foundation partners with community leaders who are building a more equitable future to support just and resilient health, food, and higher education systems for all.
Because change can't wait.
We will return in a moment.
Be sure to follow us on social media at Hawaiʻi Radio Hour. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube.
There you can find videos of our storytellers up on stage and all of our past episodes.
And if you'd like to re-listen to the show, you can also find us by searching for Hawaiʻi Radio Hour on Spotify and other podcast outlets. Mahalo for listening. We want to thank everyone who helped make this show possible. John DeFries, Brother Noland, Aunty Doreen Kama, and Chef Ippy Aiona, all for getting in front of the microphone.
Behind the scenes, we want to mahalo Gilian Santiago, Mahealani duPont, and Tati Dunhour for their help writing and producing the show.
A special mahalo to the team here at Kahilu as well. There are several great events on the calendar this season at Kahilu, and you can find them all at kahilu.org. You can also see the latest installment of Kahilu's annual Cultural Heritage Exhibition Series in Kahilu's galleries. The show brings together traditional practices with contemporary visions through quilt making, feather work, kapa, fashion, and other textile traditions of Hawaii Island.
And if you're away from the islands but don't want to miss out on performances at Kahilu, you can find shows at Kahilu TV. You can stream Brother Noland and the Island Incredibles. Go to kahilu.tv.
We're interested in hearing from you. Send us an email or voice memo to aloha@hawaiiradiohour.com. Again, that's aloha@hawaiiradiohour.com.
Here on the show, we say e ho'olohe I ko kākou moku. Listen to our island home.
E ho'olohe I ko kākou moku.
A hui ho and aloha.